Hello everyone, it's Valerie from Shalebrook Handcrafted Soap in Moser River, Nova Scotia. And today I plan on doing a video on how I incorporate milks into my hot process soap. I had been asked about using milks in hot process and when I add mine. Today the milks I'm going to be using are going to be Pistachio Milk, Coconut Milk, and Jasmine Rice Milk. Now the coconut milk I purchased, and the pistachio milk I made myself. And I read online that you can use 1 cup of unsalted pistachios mixed with 4 cups of water, and then you puree them and then you strain them. And it really does come out a bit green. I don't know, I'm going to walk up to the camera and maybe you can just see the color of that. Is that close enough, hon? Okay, so my husband turned the camera around. So there you can see that shade. It's just a very light green. Actually, I thought it was going to have really good taste. I drank some of it and it's pretty tasteless, but anyway. So I'm just going to set that over here. So what I'm doing is a 2-pound loaf, and this is going to be an all-natural soap. I'm going to, like I said, be using the 3 different milks. So I have 3 ounces of pistachio milk, and I have 2 ounces of coconut milk and 2 ounces of rice milk. I split that up, and I'm going to use 1 ounce of rice and 1 ounce of coconut milk, add it to the cook, so that's going to go through the cook. The 3 ounces of pistachio milk plus 1 ounce of coconut, 1 ounce of jasmine is going to go in after the cook. That's a lot of milk. I just didn't want to put the pistachio milk through the cook because I haven't used that before and I wasn't actually sure what might happen. But I've read that pistachio milk is gives it a really nice silky feeling. So we'll see how that goes. It's my first time using it. And this is an introduction, but I will bring you back when I'm adding those things to the soap batter. The other thing I'm using today that's different for me is some Maca root powder. That's getting rave reviews for so many things taken internally and topically on the skin. So what I plan to do with that Maca root is I'm going to mix a teeny tiny bit. Oh yeah, I didn't know if I had said this about people wanted to know how I mix my colors. Granted, these aren't micas because this is an all-natural soap. And I will do that again when I do another soap. But for this particular soap, I'm using natural. And I basically make them the same way. So in this one is 2 teaspoons of maca root, which is going to go in my natural batter. And I'm going to show you when I add all these things. And this is vegetable-based glycerin. And I'm just going to put probably an 1/8 to 1/4 of a teaspoon of glycerin. And I'm just going to add a teaspoon of water at a time. And I used to use distilled water all the time because I had read that different things can happen to your batter. And I ran out of distilled water, and I just started using my tap water for my lye liquid if I was using water, and to mix with my colors. Nothing has ever happened to my soap, cold process or hot process. Now, what I would say is, I'm not sure what your water is like. I'm on a well, and we have a water softener, and I've never had anything happen. So it all depends on your water too, I would say. Okay, so far that's 4 teaspoons of water for the maca, because it's real thick, just 2 teaspoons. So that's probably 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of glycerin for this maca root powder. I wouldn't say I use that for everything. And 4 teaspoons of water for that. It actually has a lovely smell, and I'm hoping it's not going to... Actually, I'm going to put another teaspoon of water in there because that powder's soaking that right up. And what I will do with these is once I have them all mixed, I'll set them over beside my frying pan that has hot water in it. Now the next one I have, I'm going to do a color with kale, and this is kale powder, and I'm just going to add a tiny bit of glycerin, probably less than 1/8 of a teaspoon, and And I'm going to take a teaspoon of water. These are little teeny tiny plastic cups that I purchased at a dollar store. They come in a package. I think these ones even had lids on them. And that's going to take another teaspoon, because botanical extracts and micas are quite different. And oxides, whatever you use, but this is, I'm not using any oxides in this. And that's kale. And this is actually thyme, T-H-Y-M-E, thyme powder. And the same thing, I'm just going to put a couple drops of glycerin. Actually, that ended up being way more, which I didn't want. But those things happen, so we'll deal with it. And I'll start off with 1 teaspoon. It's the first time actually of using all these botanicals. I've had the thyme powder for a little while and just didn't have an opportunity to use it. I actually looked online and it says thyme powder turns stuff green, but this is a brown. Actually, it'd be good if it did turn brown because of the design I'm doing today. And actually, that looks like it's working out pretty good. These little sticks, I don't know if you can see them. I'm just going to bring it up. They look like, I call these like little wooden hockey sticks. And I got those at a dollar store too. And they work really, they're pretty nifty. They're nifty. Yeah, they are. They're nifty for mixing up things in these little cups. And I never mix my stuff up weeks or months in advance for anything, whether it's titanium dioxide, zinc, anything like that. And so all of those powders, this one actually is having a little bit of a hard time getting mixed up, but what I'm going to do with that is it will, once it's near the heat, will get better. So those are going to be the 3 things for color that I'm going to put. So the batter, after I take a cup out for each of the kale and the thyme, I will put the maca root powder in the rest of the batter. And that's how I will design it. So that's about it. And I'm going to finish getting my stuff ready. The only other thing I would say is I'm going to scent this today with essential oils of thyme, cajuput, eucalyptus, and lavender. It's a different smell. It's not bad, but I wanted to use the thyme essential oil along with the thyme powder in this all-natural soap. So I will be back with you shortly. Thank you. So I'm getting ready to add my lye and my 2 ounces mixture of coconut and jasmine rice milk. My crock pot is on warm. The oils and the lye are really close. They're about 172, 178. Not that that's important. You can cook this anyhow you want. So this isn't about how to cook a hot process soap. This is about adding milks to soap, but I just wanted to tell you the temperature of that, because you can cook whatever method you want, whatever temperature you want, as long as it cooks it like hot process to a Vaseline stage and no lye left. What I normally do, instead of adding milk with my lye, and you can do that, I have done that before with goat milk and coconut milk, and I've frozen the milk and added the lye to it slowly. I've done that. And you can do that, and people have great success. I have never had like great success with that. And I do make goat milk soap, but very few of them. Because it's actually not my favorite milk, although I know it is for other people. And there's no problem with that because everybody's unique of what you like. I would say my favorite milk to use is coconut milk and jasmine rice milk. So right now I'll show you what I do, and I'm going to add my lye. And you don't have to do it this way. This is, I've been asked how I do it, so this is one way I do it for sure most of the time. So I'll add that lye. And then I'm going to put my stick blender just on a low speed. The other thing I wanted to tell you was my milk is heated. I always add my milk heated up. So this would be hot milk, and I'm going to add it while I stick them. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to finish stick blending this to a thick trace. I'm going to cover it and I'm going to let it cook. When it gets to the Vaseline stage and there's no lye left, I'm going to bring you back and I'm going to show you how I add the rest of my ingredients. Hello, the soap is cooked. It's all Vaseline stage. There's no lye left in it. I always check mine to make sure there's no lye left in it. You can do a zap test or phenolphthalein drops or pH strips that go from 0 to 14. Those are some ways you can test for it. But so there's no lye left. And I forgot actually to bring you back, and I already added my super fat. So it was cooked, no lye left. I added my super fat that was in a hot frying pan filled with hot water. And now I have my sugar, water, and maple syrup. Because this is a 2-pound batch, I have 2 tablespoons of sugar. I only put 1 tablespoon of maple syrup in this, and 2 tablespoons of aloe vera juice. So the batter is still really hot, as you can tell. And then I'm just stirring in that liquid. Once that's all stirred in, I'll leave that set for probably 5 minutes before I add my sodium lactate, my yogurt, and the rest of that milk. And then I'll bring you back in 5 minutes, but I just wanted to show you that so you could see it. 5 minutes is up, and now I'm going to add my sodium lactate, which was in a warm water bath. And there's different ways you can add the sodium lactate. You can actually add it to your lye liquid once it's cooled a bit. I used to do that, and I've tried different ways of adding it to hot process. For me, I have found this way works best. Usually, my batter actually right now is hotter than I would like it. It's probably up around 180. But the sodium lactate not only helps make the soap manageable, the batter manageable, it's also fantastic for your skin. And now I'm going to add my yogurt. My yogurt gets added at room temperature. You can add it right out of the fridge. I keep mine room temperature. One thing about the yogurt is you want to make sure that you get that all mixed in really good, because parts of it can cook if you don't. And that batter, you can tell, is pretty thick because I saved 5 ounces of the milk out to add. And usually my essential oil or fragrance oil gets added after the milk has time to set, but I'm going to add that today all together. So here's my milk, and that's was heated up, so it's hot. I have hot water in my frying pan that's on a burner on low. I try to add everything hot, not boiling, but hot. The other thing about adding milks to batters, if the crock is still in the element, even though it's turned off, it can still have a heat there. And I found before, I actually had it one time where my coconut milk, I didn't get it stirred in right to the bottom, and I had pieces of solid coconut milk where it had cooked on the bottom, and I had to fish through the batter to get it all out. So you want to make sure that you stir this really well, adding a bit at a time. And like I just said, it actually depends on how hot your batter is. But you want to make sure that you pour it a bit at a time and make sure that you stir it up on the bottom. That's how it works for me. Like I said, you find your own way how you can do it. So this is that pistachio milk, 3 ounces of pistachio milk, along with an ounce of coconut and an ounce of jasmine rice milk. Just going to add my essential oils in right now. I don't think I care for this too much, but sometimes you can't really tell till after the soap has set for a while. This isn't going to be a very, what people like to call a loose batter. I actually don't know what temperature that is right now. I like to stir mine up and get the batter underneath, because if you only use these, it only takes the temperature from the top. So that's actually down to about 168 Fahrenheit. So I'm just going to let that set about another 5 minutes. I'll show you how I do my colors in the batter. And that will be the end of the video. I'm not giving the formula for this because it was basically how I use milks. And it's not about the design, but I'll show you how I do my colors for this. Thank you. We're back getting ready to add our colors. One thing I wanted to mention about how much milk you use is totally up to you. You can use milk for your lye and for everything. Like I said in the beginning, I don't normally do that anymore. So basically I use enough. The lye liquid on this 2-pound batch was 4.38, and I used 5.25 water to mix with my lye, and the rest I used in milks. So how you divvy up your milk, that's totally up to you. And you can put the milk all through the cook, or you can add it afterwards. When you're only using enough liquid for the lye, it does make the batter extremely thick, and then you should add your milks really hot. I think that's what I wanted to say with that. The other thing I wanted to say was this cup right here, it's a bigger cup than these ones I got at Dollar Store. I got those at Dollar Store. Maybe you can see that. And this one here I bought from Steph's Micas. She has incredibly great tools like these things right here, these spoonulas. They're the best I've ever used for soap or cooking. So I'm going to get ready and add my colors. And what I do is I have my cups that I'm going to put these in heated with water, so everything is hot. And because I'm trying to get away from using so much plastic, I've been not using saran wrap unless I absolutely have to. So I don't cover my pot anymore like that. So I'm just going to dump out the water that I'm using for my 2 little cups. And so these are the 2 little cups I'm using. They're going to be accent colors for my design. I'm going to cover them with those. And these were in the hot water as well, these little plastic tools I have. And what I'm going to do is just take enough out of that batter for the accent colors I'm going to use in my design. So I probably want about a cup. I'm just going to eyeball that for a cup. And make sure they're both even. That's pretty thick batter. I might have to change my design maybe. One thing that can really help, that I found for me that really helps, where I'm not using plastic anymore, or even if you do use plastic, that you can give it a spray with a real fine mist of hot water or warm water. And that just stops it from drying out, and it adds such a minute amount that it's not even actually worth even thinking about. So this is my kale that I'm going to put in here, my kale powder. Hopefully I get enough. And I had these just setting over by the warm burner with the frying pan that had the hot water in it. And I might put half a teaspoon of hot water in that. Just going to spray the top of that so it doesn't dry out on me. So that is kale. Certainly smells like kale. Haha. Actually, that's coming out to a nice green. Hopefully when it dries up, it'll be really nice. And I'm going to put that back over on the stove once I get that covered with that plastic. So keeping your batter warm, I find, really helps me a lot with doing designs. And this is the thyme powder that I had used, and I'm going to do the same thing with that. Put a half a teaspoon in of hot water. Whoops, that was actually went all over there. And this is starting to harden already. Another trick that you can do if you're designing your batter and it is getting harder or setting up, it's getting more solid, then you can pop it in the microwave for like 10-15 seconds at a time, and that will loosen your batter up, or it has for me. That didn't get too dark, but it's not green. And then this is the Maca powder. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And this is going to go into the rest of that there. Basically, I'm just using this for skin properties. I'm not using it for color because I really wanted that lighter, but sometimes with natural soaps, it can be a challenge getting the right colors, that's for sure. And I'm just stirring the rest of that maca up with 2 teaspoons of water, tablespoon of water, and putting that in there. Tablespoon of hot water. The other thing is when you're working with your soap, I just noticed I usually wash my tools off if there's harder soap on it, because you don't want pieces of that coming off and making specks in your batter if you can help it. And then I'm just going to stir that all in. And that did turn it a bit of a tan color, but it doesn't look really bad. And that will lighten once it hardens as well. Okay, so for this video, hopefully I explained how you can use milks and how I use those 3 different kinds of milks. How you can use them is up to you. There's a lot of good soapers out there that have information on using milks. And check out what you like and take from each video you see or the information what you can utilize and what's good for you. Thank you for joining me today. It was great having you. Bye-bye. The soap is made. The soap feels super, super silky. I can't help but wonder, is that the pistachio milk or the maca root? And I just wanted to show you the lather from it. It's what a lovely feel to that. I think I'm gonna be trying pistachio milk again in another soap, but you could use that milk in any formula. So I just wanted to show you how lovely that is, and it's actually dense. Let me see if I can, yeah, so you can see that maybe how it makes that lather on the soap puck. Bye-bye.